welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who always brings eggs and tomatoes to a speech. It's Adam Clement.
Hi, Mark.
So, we're a good team, man. You bring the eggs and tomatoes, and I bring the lettuce to speeches, to throw at people.
Lettuce is especially vile now because the CDC said that it was contaminated. Actually, that might be lifted by now, but I know that was the hot headline du jour.
The romanity. Oh, lettuce puns.
That deserves like eggs and tomatoes for that.
That was like a Fantastic Four, Mr. Mr. Fantastic. I can't even get that right. I mean, that was a stretch.
That was another tomato and egg joke right there, but I'll forgive you.
I just love that in the middle of this incredibly dark superhero film, there's a quick aside by Danny DeVito by who brings eggs and tomatoes to a speech.
Right. No, it's a rare. I don't want to say rare. It's sort of that signature dark humor that comes out of nowhere, I think, in these kinds of movies.
And you know what I do love is that I watch a lot of movies, Adam. And I've always been very bothered by people throwing just little strands of lettuce at people. I'm like, that does nothing. It's a little piece of lettuce.
Wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Please name one movie where this has happened, because it's failing me right now.
All right. You know what? All right. So during the break, I'll just research it real quick, and when we come back, I'll name drop them. Because I don't want to wreck our momentum right now. I am telling you, there are movies where people just throw lettuce at the person at the podium. But
like poultry lettuce, you're saying.
But like in this movie though, in Batman Returns, people are throwing halves of lettuce.
Oh like, yeah, no, that's a fair point. Like, well, you can't really throw like a frisbee leaflet of lettuce, right? You can only really get some, force.
But they've done that in movies, just little pieces of lettuce. Like not like bite-sized, not like a salad, not like a salad you buy at a convenience store. Like just a little bit of lettuce are thrown.
Okay, I initially pictured like a leaflet that you would put on a fucking burger.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, what movies are you watching? Unless it's a good burger, in which case I guess that's probably one example.
I mean, I would buy that though. You're out eating a burger and there's someone being shamed, and you just take the lettuce out and whap them with it because there's ketchup. There's probably something on there. There's maybe a little pickle.
Yeah, but why not just throw the whole burger?
I'm not wasting a burger. That's why people throw lettuce.
Yeah, but you're getting rid of like the good stuff.
Wait, the lettuce is the good stuff?
Well, it's not the good stuff. You're not buying the burger for the lettuce, but I'm saying like, I don't know, you're taking a I don't want to say vital, but a key ingredient out of your equation, which is the larger burger, right? And you're saying, I don't care enough about this experience anymore. I need to make somebody else's day shit. And you take that chance, right? You don't know how much weight you got on that lettuce leaflet, so you're sort of saying, pleasure be damned. Here's a face full of lettuce, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the risk reward is there.
As I get older, when I was 20, I would have thrown the lettuce without thinking. But now that I'm 36, I'd throw the top bun.
Have you ever thrown food
at people?
Who the fuck else do you throw?
Like a food fight?
Well, okay, yeah, sure.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm sure I have in the past, but I've never willingly just thrown.
You're sure you have.
I've always wanted to recreate that scene from the Wonder Years where Fred Savage's parents are fighting and he has to do something to stop the fight. So he smashes a bunch of mashed potatoes on his brother's face, and then his brother goes.
I vaguely recall this.
So I do love the
Wonder Years. Yeah.
I have 100% thrown food at people, but I can't recall a single moment of me throwing food.
I just think that kind of thing dies out after you're table trained as a toddler.
Yeah,
at least that's my experience.
I mean, I would throw the bun, but I have to say, Batman Returns, they throw like, I would love it if there was just a cabbage truck and people were just chucking massive things of cabbage at people.
Yeah, well, wasn't that sort of like the Groundlings Shakespeare era tradition, right? They would like bring or buy produce or whatever the hell and tomatoes, and that sort of, I believe that's where it originated. I'm probably completely wrong, but if 4 years of film school has taught me anything, I think that's probably where it came from.
All right, well, let's look on that during the break too, and then we'll get back to it. But I just appreciate it. They were throwing whole halves of lettuce at Danny DeVito.
Yeah, well, you sign up for the job of the Penguin, you know what you're getting into, right?
Well, one of them hit him right in the face.
Did they?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd got to be careful with those prosthetics. He had some intense nose action going on.
3.5 hours. All right, we're jumping ahead. So if you guys have listened to our podcast before, I've brought Adam in for the jerky antics of Michael Myers podcast, and I brought him in for the Halloween podcast 2018. And Adam is you're like you know a lot about these movies, and you were really passionate about them. So I was like, hey, what should we do again? And did I bring up Batman Returns or did you?
That's a good question. I feel like it was a kind of co-op effort, but yeah, I'm the resident obsessive when it comes to like I hate movies, and I think it was probably more you that brought up Batman Returns for whatever reason. It was just serendipitous, I suppose.
I've wanted to cover this movie for a long time because it has an audience and it has a loyal audience. Oh, yeah. And this is a movie that people hate, people love, people don't quite understand. It was a hit.
McDonald's doesn't like it.
Yeah, well,
McDonald's hated it.
I mean, obviously though, if you're McDonald's and you're putting all these toys out and then you see the movie and you're listening to the Penguin talking about oiling up Catwoman and talking about what he's going to do with his fins to women and then biting a dude named Josh in the nose, like bloodily, and then... All right, how many times do you think Dan DeVito grunt in this movie, Adam?
That's good. I don't actually. Yeah, that's. I can't say I've watched for that purpose of counting. But yeah, now that you mention it, it's not exactly a kids movie, and I think they might have. I might be misremembering this, but I think their big hang up was the ending, which we'll certainly get to later. But I think the idea of a child seeing, a villain or any character for that matter, sort of gushing black ooze from their mouth, actually from all their orifices, I have to assume, and dying in the dramatic way that the Penguin does, that's probably not what they want to associate their toys with.
Catwoman sticks a taser in her mouth and kisses Walken, and they die.
Yeah. I think as somebody who was like really young when I saw that, I was like 5 or 6 years old. I wouldn't say that was I had weird feelings about that scene. I'll put it that way.
So when I was 10, this movie didn't really affect me. Is that bad? Because I think I'd already watched Reservoir Dogs and Die Hard, and I think
you were watching those movies at 10.
Yeah, I was that feral child in Florida riding his bike around watching every R-rated movie.
You're a Florida boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Florida boy before Florida man happened. Yeah, I don't know if that's a great angle, because I think as somebody who was very young, and I literally spent 3 years of my life. I'll pull my mom on this podcast to prove it. Spent 3 years of his life running around as Batman in the backyard. I had a lot of momentum going into this movie, and to be perfectly candid, I don't know if I was actually allowed to see this in the theaters. I think I did, because my parents took me to all those Burton movies. They took me to The Nightmare Before Christmas, which actually still kind of scared me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was 5 at that time, and I think I did see it in the theaters. But either way, I had the VHS. I wore it to death, and that certainly had its own impact on me. But as somebody who was 10 like you, I don't know. So we'll have to swap notes.
I mean, this movie, I can understand the studio's hesitancy with this film. This movie was supposed to be so many different movies. Annette Bening was Catwoman, then she dropped out.
Yeah, she got pregnant.
Yeah. Marlon Wayans was supposed to be Robin.
Mm-hmm.
He still gets residuals, which I think is pretty funny. I mean,
isn't that wild? Yeah.
All these different aspects were supposed to come into it. I guess the script was different. People were shooting. Like Catwoman and Penguin were using machine guns to shoot things up, and it was a completely different movie. Batman had more dialogue. Michael Keaton scratched that. Tim Burton really didn't want to do it. He said, I want to make a Tim Burton movie. I don't care what Batman fans think.
Yeah, now that you mention it, the script does have some interesting history. Sam Hamm, who was, I think, one of the originators of the first Batman script, I don't think it was just his script alone. I think he had some help, but he had started sort of developing Batman 2. And to your point, if you can even believe it, like this movie is, to me at least, the zenith of what noir is in a superhero movie, at least. And when you look at, how does it get even more noir? It apparently was like, Penguin was straight up, an arms gangster, and even Catwoman at the time in the original script was just said to be wearing straight up BDSM gear. And like you said, they were sort of after some like treasure, and it took place, I believe the final act took place in Wayne Manor. It was very like Maltese Falcony. So yeah, it is interesting to sort of find out like how it could have gone, but I'm personally pretty satisfied with what we got. And I know that's maybe a minority opinion, but yeah, it was a very wildly different movie. And even the Marlon Wayans thing, like, did you have the sort of like action figures from Kenner growing up? Because they definitely put out a Robin figure, and clearly Robin's on the movie, but yeah, it's just sort of like a last minute decision to pull him. It's interesting.
This movie cost, so with inflation, $146 million. This was a big budget movie.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do love is, I'm not sure, I mean, a lot of overtime and a lot of changing minds, so there's probably a lot of work behind the scenes, but I feel like every cent is seen on screen. The sets in this movie are essentially, the Penguin's lair looks like it was built on the Pinewood lot in England, where they do all the massive Bond sets, and they didn't do that, of course. But the sets are gigantic.
Well, now that you mention it, I know the first movie, and I want to say I think I know the first movie was shot on Pinewood.
Yep.
Was the second one, was it not? I don't know if it was.
I thought they went to California because Burton didn't want to go back over there. He wanted to have a different sensibility.
No, that sounds right. I don't think that they well, they certainly didn't use the same sets, and I agree that this sort of set design, to me at least, is like there is no other Gotham. This is my Gotham. It's just so full of that sort of German expressionism. It sort of takes that noir from the first movie that Anton first established and drowns it completely in snow. And that's just like, I don't see, like the Nolan movies, as wonderful and brilliant as they are, I was always let down by that sort of hyper-realism of Chicago and just not seeing those dramatic, brutalist, Gothic designs. Dark Deco, I believe they sort of coined that term when the animated series was a thing.
And what I guess the first one is more of a noir. If you think about the decisions, if you think about the kind of gangster aesthetic of the Joker's gang.
Right. And I know Anton first said his inspiration was, it's as if New York never stopped growing. It grew into its own hell. Like, it just kept going.
So what I read about this movie, I found an article on the AV Club that I love. And this one says, more than the first Batman and possibly more than any other movie that Burton ever made, Batman Returns is driven by a sort of magical dreamlike logic. It takes place in a world where Oswald Cobblepot can be raised by actual zoo penguins without a single human being, not even a zookeeper, finding out. So in this world, Cobblepot manages to organize, train, and costume an entire circus-themed gang of criminal marauders before his existence is anything more than a rumor. This movie really has a lot, like, you know how I do a lot of dumb data. I don't feel I don't want to do this movie because the world,
it's already like so just decidedly dumb in a lot of ways.
I mean, the world this isn't our world.
No, and it's telling you right up front, like literally the movie begins with Pee-wee Herman and Simone, right, from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, giving birth to this monstrous penguin and throwing it in the river stream, and it shows up at a bunch of penguins, and you're like, all right, this is the kind of movie you're in for. Just buckle up. And
then the penguin starts a gang that can build an entire RV with a giant car video game.
The sort of takeover of the Batmobile.
The technology that his gang members are capable of and the amount of work they can do for, I'm guessing, on the cheap and on the down low, he's found some very good henchmen.
Yeah, these are like pro hackers. This was before Hackers, the movie, but you have to wonder what kind of budget they were working with or resources, because like they only just met Max Schreck, who admittedly could, buy them a bazillion things, but they don't have that stuff yet. He just met him. So where these all came from, how he came into contact with the circus crew, who even knows?
I mean, the missiles. Like what? Did he kind of build like the Joker did in Dark Knight? He just kind of gets crazy people.
I guess, but yeah. But how do you go through like the process of weaponizing a fleet of penguins, and then like training them to use it and all that stuff? Like I guess they got their little helmets on. I know there's a way of communicating with them and ordering them around, but even still, like what I love about this movie is just so willfully fantastic, right? In ways that I think